Now let's talk about the heart conduction system. This is again is a piece of anatomy, but I like to review this one with you before we go to the physiology part. Remember that heart has automaticity. What does that mean? If I cut a nerve that goes to my biceps, let's say, my biceps is going to be paralyzed because to contract my biceps or any skeletal muscle, I need innervation. If you cut the nerve that goes to the heart, and what are those nerves? Sympathetic and parasympathetic, autonomic nervous system. I hope you remember that. If you cut those two nerves, the heartbeat doesn't stop. Heart still is going to contract. So you see the difference between skeletal muscle and heart. Skeletal muscle, by cutting the nerve, will be paralyzed, but the cardiac muscle is going to beat even faster. Why is that? Because heart has automaticity. Heart has some special cells that generate action potential de novo from scratch, and they don't need sympathetic or parasympathetic. That special cells in the wall of the heart is called sinoatrial node or pacemaker of the heart. I'll show you how this pacemaker works, but for now I want you to know these are the special cardiac cells that generate action potential. This action potential is going to be propagated in the whole heart and goes to every cells that we have, and as a result your heart is going to contract. So the purpose of this discussion is how we're going to bring this action potential from SA node and give it to every cell in the heart. That is called conduction system. Well, the answer is SA node is going to generate this impulse, this action potential, and this action potential first is going to go everywhere inside the atrium. Inside the wall of the atrium, we have a wiring. It's called internodal pathway or internodal tract. Those are wiring inside the atrium. But what's the nature of this wiring? They are specialized myocardial cell. This action potential is going to go through this pathway and it's going to go to everywhere inside the atrium. But also it should get to the ventricle. However, atrium and ventricle, they are separated from each other by some insulation. The only way to bring this action potential from atrium to ventricle is through another node that is found in the septum. In this picture, it doesn't show it well. It's supposed to be here. This node is a gateway between atrium and ventricle. This node is called atrioventricular node. Atrium, ventricular, ventricle, node. The impulse is going to come to AV node. From AV node is going to go to this bundle. It's called bundle of His, or it's called atrioventricular bundle. Inside the septum, this bundle is going to divide to two branches. It's called right and left bundle branch. The right one is going to go to right part of the heart and it's going to branch off. Left bundle branch, this one, is going to divide itself in two branches, one in the front, one in the back. It's called anterior and posterior. And then finally, they're going to come to the left side. They're going to branch off. This tiny branch is called Purkinje fibers in both sides. So let's repeat one more time. SA node is going to create impulse. That's why it's called pacemaker. This impulse is going to first go everywhere inside the atrium through the internodal pathway, and then it's going to come to the AV node. From AV node, it's going to go to bundle of His, or it's called atrioventricular bundle, and then it's going to divide to two branches. It's called bundle branch, right bundle branch, left bundle branch. Left bundle branch is going to create anterior and posterior that you don't see in this picture. And finally, they're going to go to each side of the ventricle that divide to Purkinje fiber. But how are you going to make sure these cells are going to talk to each other? As you can see, cells are attached to each other by gap junction. Purkinje fiber is not going to go to every single cell, but if it's going to come to this cell can send it to this cell. So therefore, the cells that can talk to each other through this gap junction is called intercalated disc. And as a result, your whole heart is going to get the message. It's important for you to understand that the whole heart cannot contract at the same time. Because if the atrium and ventricle contract at the same time, then blood has nowhere to go. Imagine atrium is going to go to contraction and ventricle is under contraction at the same time. Where this blood is going to go? You have to contract the atrium while ventricle is in relaxation. Then you have to contract ventricle while the atrium is relaxing. So therefore, there must be a delay between the action potential in the atrium and the action potential inside the ventricle. Remember, first you're going to send action potential, and as a result of action potential, your atrium is going to contract. You have to send action potential to ventricle, and as a result, ventricle is going to contract. If you send action potential to the atrium and ventricle at the same time, both they're going to go to contraction at the same time. That makes no sense. Imagine this atrium is going to contract here, and the ventricle is in contraction, blood has nowhere to go. So when this one is contracting, this one must relax to accept the blood. And when this one is contracting, this one is relaxing to accept blood for the next round. How are we going to achieve that? The answer is AV node. AV node is going to slow down. It's going to halt the impulse for 0.1 to 0.2 seconds. In other words, this guy is going to keep the impulse, allows this one to go to contraction, and then it's going to let it go. So that is a very important feature of AV node. If AV node keep the impulse longer than it should, then we call that one heart block. You're going to learn about the disease, of course, later. What is going to happen if SA node stop working? Well, the answer is if SA node stop working, then AV node can take over. And if AV node stop working, then bundle branch or Purkinje fiber can take over. I'll go through the detail of this one later. However, what you need to know is this. If SA node doesn't work and AV node or Purkinje fiber is going to take over, that is called ectopic pacemaker. Ectopic pacemaker because it's not the main one. This is the accessory one. This is the one that is not supposed to be the main pacemaker, so that's why we call it ectopic pacemaker. Every time SA node is going to send impulse, heart is going to contract once. So how many times this SA node is going to send impulse? Well, how many times your heart beats? Normally between 60 to 100 times. So this SA node is going to send impulse between 60 to 100 times. As a result, your heart is going to beat between 60 to 100 times. If SA node send impulse, that is called sinus rhythm. So sinus rhythm is a rhythm that is originated by the SA node. What is going to happen when this action potential reaches this muscle? Well, we said this muscle is going to go to contraction, but just like a skeletal muscle, first we're going to bring action potential to the muscle and make sure muscle is going to release calcium. Remember, to contract a muscle, we need calcium. Before I tell you about SA node, let's see when the action potential reaches the myocardial muscle, this cell, how this cell is going to go through the action potential itself. This diagram shows the event inside the myocardial cell. So let's say the resting membrane potential for myocardial cell is minus 85, and the cardiac muscle is at rest. As soon as the action potential is going to come to this muscle, it's going to open up the sodium channel, and as a result, the sodium is going to come inside the cell. When sodium comes inside the cell becomes less negative. As a result, your membrane potential from minus 85 is going to move all the way up toward positive, and it's going to go around plus 20. But why is it going to stop? Why is it not going to go higher? Because remember from the discussion that we had for nervous system, we said sodium channel has inactivation gate. As soon as you stimulate this sodium channel, activation gate is going to open, but inactivation gate start closing slowly. You remember that if this is a sodium channel, we had two gates. One gate was activation gate, and another gate was inactivation gate. When the cell is at rest, activation gate is closed and activation gate is open. If you stimulate this channel, the activation gate is going to open. So this one is going to open and this one is already open. So as a result, sodium is going to come in. But we said inactivation gate, as soon as the cell is depolarized, start closing. So you have time to bring sodium in, but after a while, inactivation gate is going to close. And it's going to change into this shape. So the movement of sodium is going to stop because inactivation gate is going to close. If inactivation gate stayed open, this curve would go all the way up and reach to this dashes line. But it's not going to stay open, inactivation gate is going to close. As a result, the movement of sodium is going to stop. So here, the sodium channel is going to close. But then you have a small drop that is called stage 1. You see that? This is stage 0, this is stage 1. this piece from here to here. What's that for? Well, sodium channel is closed, so sodium is not going to come inside the cell. But now potassium channel is going to open. When potassium channel is open, the curve is going to drop because potassium start moving out. You see that? Potassium start moving out. As soon as potassium start moving out, the curve is going to come down because potassium is positive. You are losing positive, so inside the cell becomes negative again. But as soon as the potassium starts leaving the cell, then the calcium channel is going to open. This calcium channel is going to open, and the calcium is going to move inside the cell. As you can see now, potassium is leaving and calcium is going to come in. As a result, it's going to create a plateau phase. This is number 2. So 1 is due to exit of potassium only, but as soon as potassium starts moving out and the curve is going to come down, calcium is going to open and calcium is going to come inside the cell. As a result, there is no net flow. Calcium and potassium become equal in different directions. As a result, create a plateau. This calcium channel, by the way, is going to create a current of ions. It's called a slow inward current. And the type of calcium channel that you find in this stage, or stage 2, is called L-type. We have different type of calcium channel. This is called L-type, or also is called dihydropyridine. Dihydropyridine is a medication that can block this channel. That's why this channel is called dihydropyridine. This calcium that enters the cell is absolutely important, not only for the action potential of the myocardial cell, but you will see this calcium has a role in contraction of the cell also. So we're going to get to this calcium again one more time later, but for now, remember, it's going to create a plateau. This plateau is going to last between 150 to 200 milliseconds. Calcium is going to stop coming in. As a result, now potassium is the only one, unrivaled, and as a result, curve is going to come down. So that is because now potassium is going to take over the show. There's no calcium, as you can see. The movement of calcium is going to slow down big time. And now the curve is going to come down. Toward the end of this curve, the movement of potassium is going to slow down because now we are getting close to equilibrium of potassium. And there's no enough force for potassium to get out. Now inside the cell become negative, and outside the cell we have enough potassium, so potassium doesn't want to go out anymore. So as a result, we're getting closer to the equilibrium of potassium. And we're getting close to minus 85, where it was before. Now, in the stage 4, we're going to have another potassium channel open, and that potassium channel is different than this potassium channel. This potassium channel, stage 4, is called GK1, and that's a very special type of potassium channel. And that still is going to allow potassium to get out. If you want to have plateau, you have to have an opposing ion also. So when potassium moves out, how come the curve doesn't come even lower? Why is it become plateau? Because now sodium and calcium slightly is going to come in. And in the stage 4, the movement of sodium and calcium coming in and potassium moving out is going to create a plateau phase again. So now the cell is back to normal. If the next action potential comes, that is going to open the sodium channel and the curve is going to go up, and the same thing is going to repeat. So let me review one more time. The resting membrane potential is minus 85. When the action potential is going to hit the myocardial cell, sodium channel is going to open. That's called stage 0. It's going to go up. Inactivation gate is going to close. Potassium channel is going to open. As a result, we have a stage 1. We have plateau here because as potassium is moving out, now the calcium is going to fight back. This calcium channel, do not forget, is an L-type, or it's called dihydropyridine, which is a very important movement of calcium. Calcium channel is going to stop, and potassium channel, which is still open, is going to bring the curve almost back to where it was, minus 85. This potassium channel is going to close, but another potassium channel, which is called GK1, opens, and potassium slightly moves out. To create plateau, we have to have opposing current of the ions that comes in, and that is sodium and calcium. As a result, we get to the stage 4.